Have you ever been rejected by someone you loved? Get out of here now. You're not my real father. You were just a favor my parents did out of pity. The words cut through the air like broken glass in the elegant living room of the Beverly Hills home. 62-year-old Marcus Williams stood at the door with a small suitcase in his hands, watching Jessica scream like a spoiled child. The man who had worked 3 jobs to pay for her college, who had slept on the couch so she could have the bigger bedroom, who had saved every penny to give her a life he never had, was now being treated like trash in his own home. The irony was bitter. 23 years ago, when Jessica's biological parents died in a car accident, she was just a scared 5-year-old. Marcus, who worked as the family's private driver, was the only person willing to take responsibility. No wealthy relatives or close family friends wanted to bother with an orphan. Your biological parents left you in my care when they were only 19. Jessica, I raised you as my own daughter, Marcus replied with a calmness that surprised even himself, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Exactly. You raised me. You did your job as a babysitter. And now you can leave. Jessica yelled, her perfectly brushed blonde hair swaying with fury. I'm 28 years old, a successful lawyer. I have this beautiful house and a rich fiancé. I don't need you messing up my life anymore. Bradley Montenegro, the 35-year-old patrician fiancé and heir to a construction company, watched from the Italian leather armchair with a satisfied smile. His perfectly manicured nails drummed on the armrest as he savored the spectacle. Finally, love. It's about time, he murmured without even looking at Marcus. You deserve better than well this. This echoed through the room with a venom Marcus knew well. In the last 2 years since Jessica started dating Bradley, things had changed dramatically. Introductions to friends no longer included the words "my father." At parties, he was introduced as Marcus, who helped me when I was a child. Invitations to family dinners disappeared when Bradley suggested it would be embarrassing for Jessica's career. Marcus had noticed the looks, the conversations that stopped when he entered the room. The embarrassment Jessica felt when her wealthy friends asked about the older man who lived with her. She had never called him dad in public since she started working at the elite Los Angeles law firm. Do you know what your country club friends say about me living here? Jessica continued, her cheeks red with anger. They think it's weird. A respected lawyer living with what, Jessica? Marcus asked softly, but she couldn't finish the sentence. The words stuck in her throat, but everyone knew exactly what she meant. Bradley wasn't as discreet. With someone who clearly isn't part of our social circle, he added, adjusting the $50,000 watch on his wrist. Nothing personal, Marcus, but you have to understand that appearances matter in our world. Marcus remembered the sleepless nights studying with Jessica for her high school exams, the savings he made selling his car to pay for her college books, the weekends working as a security guard at events to earn extra money for their prom outfits. All while she slept peacefully, dreaming of the bright future he was building for her. Get your things and get out of my sight, Jessica continued, pointing to the door as if dismissing a servant. I never want to see you again, ever. And take those ridiculous pictures of me when I was a kid. They don't match the decor. The photos. Marcus looked at the shelf where dozens of photos of Jessica's childhood had once stood. Now there were only 3 left, hidden behind tennis trophies and horse riding cups. The rest had mysteriously disappeared after Bradley moved into the house. Marcus looked around the house he had helped to buy. The entrance he had renovated in the early mornings after work, the garden he had planted so Jessica would have a beautiful place to play. He remembered the 5-year-old girl who cried herself to sleep and would only calm down when he sang softly by her bedside. The same girl who now saw him as a dead weight in her perfect white life. It's okay, Jessica, he said simply, adjusting the strap of his briefcase on his shoulder. His eyes revealed a strange serenity, like someone who was keeping a secret too powerful to reveal before the right time. Bradley laughed loudly, as if he had just heard an inside joke. I'm glad you're being reasonable. It makes it easier for everyone. As he walked toward the door, Marcus smiled slightly. Jessica had no idea what she had just lost. None of them did. For years, he had kept quiet about certain things, about investments he had made in secret, about connections he had built away from prying eyes, about the real reason he never had to worry about money, even though he worked at menial jobs. What will Marcus do next? Stay tuned to Black Voices to find out. If you're feeling angry at this absurd ingratitude, don't forget to subscribe to Black Voices because this story will show you that underestimating someone can be the biggest mistake of your life. Marcus drove his old pickup truck through the streets of Beverly Hills, watching the perfectly aligned mansions in the rear-view mirror. 23 years of sacrifice had just been thrown away because of the social embarrassment of a daughter he had raised with so much love. The phone rang. It was Jessica. Marcus, I forgot to tell you. I need you to remove all your things from the garage, too. Bradley is renovating the space for a private gym. Her voice sounded cold, distant, as if she were talking to a service provider. And another thing, please don't show up at my office anymore. The partners have made some uncomfortable comments. Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter. The garage he had built himself on weekends, brick by brick, would now be erased from history as if it had never existed. I understand, he replied simply. Great. Oh, and Marcus. Jessica paused dramatically. It would be best if you didn't mention to anyone who raised me. It could cause misunderstandings about our family background. The call ended without a goodbye. Marcus parked in front of a small cafe on the outskirts of town where he had worked as a night cleaner years ago to pay for Jessica's school books. The place was exactly the same, simple and cozy, completely different from the fancy restaurants Jessica now frequented with Bradley. Inside the cafe, he found Robert Chun, an old friend from hard times. Robert had been his colleague at the cleaning company and now ran his own security business. Marcus, man, I haven't seen you in ages. Robert greeted him with a genuine smile. How's Jessica? I hear she's become a famous lawyer. Marcus took a deep breath. Actually, Robert, that's what I need to talk to you about. As Marcus recounted the events of the day, Robert listened silently, his face darkening with every detail. When Marcus finished, Robert shook his head in disapproval. After all you did for her, man, I remember when you sold your lunch to buy school supplies for the girl. You worked 3 shifts and still helped her with her homework in the middle of the night. She doesn't remember that, Marcus muttered, stirring his now cold coffee. Or she pretends she doesn't, Robert corrected. You know this isn't just about social embarrassment, right? It's about money. This Bradley guy probably filled her head with ideas about inheritance, family wealth. Marcus nodded slowly. Over the past few months, he had noticed Bradley asking subtle questions about family financial planning and estate planning. The young man had automatically assumed that Marcus had nothing of value to leave behind. The funny thing, Marcus said with a wry smile, is that they think they know everything about me? Robert raised his eyebrows. Like, what? Remember those investments I started making when Jessica was in college? The tech company stock I bought with the settlement money for my brother's accident? I vaguely remember. You said it was a risk, but worth a shot. Marcus took his cell phone out of his pocket and showed Robert the screen. It was a banking app showing an investment account. Robert almost choked on his coffee. $5.5 million. Marcus, is that real? The company I invested in has grown 1,200% in the last 15 years. I never told Jessica because I wanted to make sure she loved me for who I am, not what I have. Marcus calmly put his phone away. Looks like I found out the answer today. Robert was silent for a few seconds, processing the information. And now, what are you going to do? Marcus smiled for the first time that day, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just realized he held all the cards in a game he thought he was losing. First, I'm going to give them exactly what they asked for. I'm going to walk out of Jessica's life completely. No drama, no fuss. Marcus stood up from the table. Then I'm going to show this whole town who Marcus Williams really is. How? Robert asked, intrigued. Do you still have contacts in the business community? A few. Why? Marcus grabbed a napkin and wrote down a number. Call this guy tomorrow morning. Tell him you have a client interested in making significant investments in the area. Don't mention my name yet. Robert looked at the number. It was the phone number for Harrison and Associates, one of the most exclusive financial consulting firms in Los Angeles. Marcus, what are you planning? Jessica wants me to disappear from her life because she considers me a social embarrassment. Marcus adjusted his cap and walked toward the door. I'll give her exactly that. I'll disappear from the Marcus she knows and re-emerge as someone she could never imagine. Each new humiliation had only fueled something inside him that his oppressors couldn't see. A quiet determination strengthened by the very injustice they tried to impose on him. What those privileged people didn't know was that every act of contempt was signing their own surprise sentence. The next morning, Robert made the call to Harrison and Associates as agreed. The receptionist, accustomed to elite clients, almost hung up when she heard it was about an investor interested in opportunities in the region. What is the client's net worth? She asked coldly. Between $5 and $6 million, Robert replied, trying to keep his voice natural. The tone changed instantly. One moment, please. I'll transfer you to Mr. Harrison. Meanwhile, Marcus was in a modest hotel in the city center, far from the glitz of Beverly Hills, organizing documents he had kept in a safe for years. Stock certificates, bank statements, investment receipts, all meticulously filed and updated. His phone rang. It was Jessica. Marcus, I need you to sign some papers, she said without even saying hello. It's about the transfer of ownership of the house. Since you lived with us, there are some legal issues we need to resolve. What kind of issues? Marcus asked even though he already knew the answer. Bradley spoke to his lawyer. Apparently, since you lived in the house for over 2 years, you may have some legal claim to the property. We need a formal waiver. Marcus smiled wryly. Bradley was being even greedier than he had imagined. I see. And where am I supposed to sign these papers? At Bradley's lawyer's office tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Don't be late because we have an important dinner afterward. I'll be there on time. Jessica hung up without saying goodbye. 2 hours later, Marcus was sitting in the glass and marble office of Harrison and Associates, being treated like royalty. Jonathan Harrison, a 50-year-old man in a $3,000 suit, practically bowed when he greeted him. Mr. Williams, it's an honor to have you here. Your investments in technology have been brilliant. Value tech has grown extraordinarily in the last 15 years. Marcus nodded calmly. I was lucky to get in early. Now, I want to diversify. Of course, of course. What area are you thinking about commercial real estate? Specifically, I'm interested in properties that can have a positive social impact. Marcus paused deliberately. Are you familiar with the area where they're building those new luxury residential complexes? Harrison perked up. Beverly Hills. Of course, there are some excellent opportunities there. Actually, I'm thinking of something different. I want to invest in community centers, mentoring programs for underprivileged youth, scholarships. Marcus let the sentence hang in the air. Places where people like me, who came from humble beginnings, can help the next generation. Harrison blinked, clearly confused by the direction of the conversation, but the size of Marcus' investment spoke louder than any hesitation. That's an admirable project, Mr. Williams. I can organize an event to introduce you to the key players in the region. Many important people would like to meet you. Important people. Marcus feigned interest. Like who? Well, elite lawyers, business people, heirs to large fortunes. The kind of networking that can open many doors. Marcus smiled. That would be perfect. That afternoon, Jessica was at the law firm where she worked, telling her colleagues how she had finally resolved the situation with Marcus. You can't imagine the relief, she said during lunch at the executive floor French restaurant. Now I can focus on what really matters. Bradley and I are planning a $300,000 wedding at the country club. Sarah, a colleague, raised her eyebrows. $300,000? That's a fortune. Bradley's father is paying for everything. He said it's worth investing in the family image. Jessica twirled her $50,000 engagement ring on her finger. By the way, do you guys know anyone who needs a driver? Marcus is experienced, punctual. Laughter echoed around the table. Jessica felt validated by her friend's approval. What she didn't know was that just 3 blocks away, Marcus was signing a contract to sponsor a scholarship program worth $200,000 a year. The program would be launched at a charity gala the following week at the same country club where Jessica planned to get married. Harrison was ecstatic. Mr. Williams, this event will bring together the cream of Los Angeles society. It will be an unforgettable evening. Marcus flipped through the guest list Harrison had prepared. There it was. Jessica Whitmore and Bradley Montenegro. Are they confirmed? Marcus asked, pointing to the names. Yes, Mr. Montenegro is the son of one of our biggest clients. Miss Whitmore works at Henderson & Associates. They're well known on the social circuit. Marcus calmly closed the folder. Perfect. It's going to be a really special evening. As he left the office, Marcus glanced at his reflection in the building's mirrored window. For 23 years, he had been just Marcus, the man who took care of Jessica, who worked quietly, who remained in the shadows. In 1 week, he would re-emerge as something his adopted daughter could never imagine. What shocking twist awaits at the gala? Don't miss it on Black Voices. What Jessica and Bradley couldn't see was that every act of contempt had only strengthened the resolve of a man they never truly knew. They were about to discover that underestimating someone can be the most costly mistake a person ever makes. The night of the charity gala arrived with pomp and circumstance. The Beverly Hills Country Club was unrecognizable, decorated with golden lights and flower arrangements that cost more than many people earn in a year. Luxury cars paraded through the main entrance as photographers jostled for the best shots of the distinguished guests. Jessica and Bradley arrived in style in his red Porsche. She wearing an $8,000 designer dress and he sporting an impeccable Italian tuxedo. Both felt at home in this environment of ostentation and privilege. Finally, an event worthy of us, Jessica commented, adjusting the pearl necklace Bradley had given her as a gift. No inappropriate people to ruin the evening. Bradley laughed, offering her his arm. That's the way it should be, honey. People like us deserve to be among people like us. They entered the main hall, greeting acquaintances and posing for photos. Jessica was beaming, feeling validated by the exclusive environment. Rumor had it that the mysterious host was a millionaire investor who was considering large donations to the local community. Who is the organizer of this event? Jessica asked Sarah, her colleague from the office. No one knows for sure. They say it's a man named Marcus Williams, but he hasn't shown up yet. Apparently, he's very discreet and prefers to work behind the scenes. Jessica frowned. The name sounded familiar, but in the hustle and bustle of the evening, she couldn't make the connection. The official presentation began at 8 o'clock sharp. Jonathan Harrison, elegant in his tuxedo, took the stage with a beaming smile. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I introduce the man who made this evening possible. A visionary who has decided to invest $2 million in scholarships for underprivileged youth in addition to funding 3 community centers in the Los Angeles metropolitan area. Applause echoed through the hall. Jessica and Bradley applauded mechanically, more interested in networking than philanthropy. A man who proves that true wealth lies in lifting others to your level. Please welcome Marcus Williams. Jessica stopped applauding. The blood ran cold in her veins. Marcus took the stage with elegance, wearing a perfectly tailored tuxedo. His demeanor was different, more confident, more imposing. When the spotlight illuminated him completely, an awkward silence fell over the ballroom. "Good evening," Marcus said into the microphone, his voice echoing clearly throughout the room. "Thank you for being here to support a cause that is very dear to me, ensuring that talented young people have the same opportunities regardless of their social background or skin color." Jessica felt her legs go weak. Bradley looked at her confused, noticing her sudden pallor. You must be wondering why I chose to invest specifically in education, Marcus continued, his eyes scanning the crowd until they found Jessica. The answer is simple. A few days ago, I discovered in the most painful way possible that raising a person with love does not guarantee that she will repay you with respect. A murmur ran through the room. Photographers began to capture the palpable tension in the air. I spent 23 years raising a young woman as if she were my own daughter. I worked 3 jobs, sold my belongings, gave up everything to give her the best education possible. Marcus paused, letting the weight of his words echo. A week ago, I was kicked out of my home because my presence was inappropriate for her social circle. Jessica tried to slip out discreetly, but the curious glances of the guests paralyzed her. Bradley whispered furiously, "Is that him? Is that your Marcus? But do you know what hurt me the most?" Marcus continued, now looking directly at Jessica. It wasn't being called inappropriate. It was realizing that I raised a person who measures the value of others by the size of their bank accounts. Harrison approached the microphone. "Mr. Williams, perhaps we should focus on the charity." Marcus smiled kindly. "Of course, Jonathan, the charity." He took a folder from his inside jacket pocket. "These $200,000 a year scholarships will ensure that talented young people are not judged by their appearance or background. Something that unfortunately some people never learn to value." The room was completely silent. Jessica felt all eyes on her, some curious, others beginning to understand the situation. Bradley, calculating as always, tried to approach her. "Marcus, what a wonderful surprise. Jessica was just saying how much she missed you." "Please, Mr. Montenegro," Marcus interrupted politely. "There's no need to pretend. Last week, you said I wasn't part of your social circle. You were right. In fact, I'm not part of circles that measure people's worth by the color of their skin or the size of their bank accounts." The audience began to murmur louder. Some people took photos discreetly. Jessica knew that by the end of the night, all of Beverly Hills would be talking about the scandal. "But you know what's funny?" Marcus chuckled. "All these years, while Jessica was ashamed to introduce me as her father, I was quietly building something she never imagined. The $5.5 million I'm donating today came from investments I made over the years, saving every penny I had left after paying for her education." Jessica felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. $5.5 million. Bradley went pale, mentally calculating how much money had just slipped through his fingers. "So yes," Marcus concluded, "I'm leaving your social circle. I'm joining a much better one, the circle of those who use their prosperity to lift others up, not to humiliate them." The applause was deafening. People rose to their feet, cheering Marcus, while Jessica remained petrified, knowing she had just lost not only $5 million, but her reputation throughout Beverly Hills. At that moment, as the cameras captured every second of her public humiliation, Jessica finally understood that she had completely underestimated the man who raised her. But the question that hung in the air was devastating. Was it possible to regain someone's respect after completely destroying the trust that took a lifetime to build? 3 months after the gala, Marcus sat in his new office in downtown Los Angeles, watching the city bustle below from the windows of the 23rd floor. The sign on the door reads Foundation, Transforming Lives Through Education. The phone rang. It was Robert Chun, now the Foundation's executive director. "Marcus, we have 50 more scholarship applicants this month. And that documentary about your story is going to be shown on national television next week." Marcus smiled. What had started as a $2 million donation had turned into a $15 million foundation funded by other investors who had been inspired by his story. Universities across the country now offered programs in partnership with the Williams Foundation. "What else is new?" Marcus asked, even though he already knew the answer. Jessica lost her job at Henderson & Associates. Apparently, the partners felt that the negative exposure could affect the firm's reputation. Bradley was also fired from his father's construction company. It seems the Montenegro family didn't like the publicity at all. Marcus shook his head, feeling no satisfaction at their suffering, only a deep sadness for the daughter he had lost to greed and prejudice. That same afternoon, Jessica was sitting in a cheap cafe in downtown, far from the fancy restaurants of Beverly Hills. Her savings were gone, her luxury apartment had been sold to pay off debts, and Bradley had ended their relationship the morning after the gala. "I can't be associated with this mess," he had said coldly. "My reputation is at stake." Jessica's phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, Jessica. It's me, Marcus." She was silent for a moment, her heart racing. "Marcus, you don't have to say anything. I know you're going through a difficult time. I want to make you an offer." Jessica felt a glimmer of hope. "What kind of offer?" "A job at the foundation. Starting salary. No special privileges. You'll start by organizing documents and learning about the scholarship program." "I'll take it," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "But there's one condition," Marcus continued. "You'll work directly with disadvantaged young people. You'll get to know their stories. You'll understand what it means to fight for opportunities. And if you really change, if you learn what respect and humility are, maybe we can rebuild our relationship." "I promise, Marcus." I was completely wrong." "Don't promise me, Jessica. Prove it." 6 months later, Jessica was in the foundation's office helping a 17-year-old boy fill out an application for an engineering scholarship. The boy, who was black and from a poor family, reminded her of how patient and dedicated Marcus had been during her own education. "Thank you, Miss Jessica. This opportunity means everything to me," the young man said. At that moment, looking at the hopeful smile on that boy's face, Jessica finally understood. Marcus hadn't taken revenge on her by destroying her life. He had given her the chance to rebuild it based on true values. Marcus watched from the office doorway. Jessica had been working at the foundation for 6 months, earning a modest salary, living in a modest apartment, and for the first time in years, she seemed genuinely happy helping other people. "She's changing," Robert commented, approaching Marcus. "She's learning what I've tried to teach her all her life, that a person's value isn't in their bank account, but in how much they can lift others up." That night, Jessica called Marcus. "Dad," she said, using the word for the first time in years. "I wanted to thank you for not giving up on me even when I deserved it." Marcus smiled, feeling his heart warm. Sometimes people have to lose everything to find out what really matters. Daughter Marcus Williams' story became a national phenomenon. Universities invited him to speak. Business leaders sought partnerships with his foundation, and young people from across the country wrote letters thanking him for the opportunities they had received. Bradley Montenegro, on the other hand, never fully recovered. His family disowned him. His career stagnated, and he became an example of how arrogance and prejudice can destroy a life. 2 years later, Marcus stood on stage at Harvard University speaking to an audience of 500 students about overcoming adversity and social justice. "I learned that the best revenge is not to destroy those who hurt us," he said, his voice echoing through the auditorium. "It is to build something so powerful and positive that it transforms not only our lives but the lives of everyone around us." In the front row, Jessica watched proudly. Now a social work graduate of her adoptive father's foundation. She had found her true calling, helping other young people overcome the same social barriers that had nearly destroyed her. Marcus concluded his speech. "When someone rejects you because of prejudice, don't let it diminish you. Use that pain as fuel to prove that a person's worth can never be measured by the color of their skin or the address where they live. Because in the end, those who judge by the wrong values always find out too late that they missed the opportunity to know someone truly special." The applause was deafening. But Marcus knew that the real victory was not in that moment of glory. It was in Jessica finding her way back to herself. It was in the thousands of young people who now had opportunities they would never have had without the foundation. It was in the proof that it is possible to turn pain into purpose and rejection into redemption. If you were moved by this story of overcoming adversity and justice, subscribe to Black Voices and leave a comment telling us. Have you ever been underestimated by someone? How did you react? Because sometimes the greatest injustices in life are just the universe preparing us to discover a strength we didn't even know we had. Marcus Williams tried to be rejected by his own daughter, but ended up discovering that his true family was all the lives he could touch. He learned that the best revenge is not to make others suffer. It is to achieve a level of success and purpose that his enemies could never imagine. Turning every act of contempt into fuel to light the way for those who truly deserve our energy and